Roses are prickly shrubs that produce distinctive fruits called rose hips. Botanically speaking, a rose hip is a cluster of achenes enclosed by a fleshy hypanthium. But since that definition probably doesn't help anyone, just think of a rose hip as a fleshy fruit filled with some extremely hard seeds. Also keep in mind that only roses produce rose hips, so the presence of these fruits on prickly shrubs with pinnate leaves is a sure sign of roses. As for edibility, all roses have edible hips, but the hips of some species are much better than those of other species. In some species, the hips are too small to effectively harvest and process, or they have irritating hairs that need to be dealt with. Harvesting rose hips is best done when they're slightly overripe, and you can tell when they're slightly overripe because their skins start to wrinkle and their flesh becomes soft like mashed potatoes. Sweetness is at a maximum at that point, and thanks to the cool weather of late autumn, the hips often stay fresh for quite a while. Sometimes they can even stay fresh all the way through winter. The real challenge with roses, aside from dodging all the prickles, is processing the hips. And the reason that's a challenge is because the achenes are so hard. So, how do we overcome this challenge? Well, the easiest way is to simply chew the hips and spit them out. Another way is to cut the hips in half and brush them away. And yet another way is to make rose hip juice. To make this juice, simply boil the hips in water, mash the hips while they're boiling, and then filter out the debris. Overall, despite some difficulties in harvesting and processing, rose hips are an excellent wild food.